This podcast is brought to you by Always Possible.
alwayspossible.co.uk. Welcome to the Possibility Club. We're going to dive straight in, and the topic this week is food. Food, more than just sustenance. It's a kind of narrative woven with culture, tradition, personal history. In this episode, we're going to delve into the rich tapestry of culinary artistry and entrepreneurship, looking at themes of authenticity, sustainability, and the transformative power of following one's passion, especially when that is in food. This is a very special episode because we have got a finalist from MasterChef UK, and that's an absolute first for the Possibility Club. But more than that, our guest champions a mission to elevate and diversify perceptions of his native Indian cuisine. Born and raised in India, our guest has brought with him to the UK a deep-seated love for food when he moved here in 2010. And despite achieving professional and personal milestones in the finance sector, he found himself yearning for something more visceral. The COVID-19 pandemic was a catalyst, prompting our guest to pursue his dreams, ultimately leading him to the MasterChef kitchen. In a competition dominated by Western culinary techniques, he was unflinchingly drawn to showcase the depth and diversity of Indian cuisine, earning praise for his authenticity and also for his bravery in sticking to one cuisine but just showing it in all its possible light and shade. We're going to talk about the evolving dynamics of the restaurant industry, of hospitality, particularly in the face of economic challenges, shifting consumer behaviours. We're going to talk about the importance of maintaining cultural authenticity in cuisine and how chefs can use their platforms to educate and inspire. Sustainability, of course, is a key theme, with a focus on locally sourced ingredients, environmental compatibility, and how we reflect broader movements towards responsible and ethical food practices, even in the world of restaurant and dining. And at a macro level, what about the significant trends reshaping food and hospitality sector from the top to bottom? Yes, the increasing emphasis on sustainable sourcing, but also thinking about technological and digital transformation, of the changing nature of skills and employment and careers, and how economic fluctuations and changing consumer thinking are influencing different sorts of business models, and how to survive in an evolving and changing UK PLC landscape. And what about my guest? How does one like him transition from a stable corporate career to the deep uncertainty of the world of restaurants? What are the keys to creating a successful food business in today's economic climate? And how can a chef balance tradition with innovation to create a unique and compelling food story? Well, I'm Richard Freeman. This is the Possibility Club, and my special guest this week is the innovative chef and entrepreneur Anurag Agarwal. Hello, welcome to the Possibility Club. Buckle in, we've got an interesting episode this edition. As always, we're looking at bravery, impact, change, leadership, what's happening in the world of business, culture, society, and the lens this week is looking at food. And it's something that's very close to my heart, being someone who eats a lot of food, but also I'm very interested in the evolution in these strange economic times of food and drink industry, of hospitality, the world of the kind of visitor economy, but also looking at the impact of particularly kind of cooking on TV and how that's bred a whole new sort of generation of entrepreneurs, working kind of cross-brand, cross-impact. It's an exciting area to explore, and I'm delighted to be joined in this episode by none other than a MasterChef finalist, Anurag Agarwal. How the devil are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing great. Brilliant. Thank you for having me on this podcast, The Possibility Club. The name itself is so motivating, and I think that it has a lot of positive vibes.
I don't think I've had a MasterChef finalist on the podcast before. What led you to that program, and what was your experience there?
Yeah, I think I always say it was the best experience of my life so far. I have never done anything that excited in my life, probably would never do it as well. And it was like dream come true just to be, it's not about just being on television. To me, food is much more than just ingredients, dishes, or cuisine. And to be able to be there on that platform, such a prestigious and very noble area, and to express myself through my cooking. So that was very honoring. So it was a brilliant experience.
You've got a particular specialism in Indian cuisine. How did you find that kind of translating into what's often quite a broad and often quite Western centric food platform?
So again, like the main core reason why I got into MasterChef and wanted to do anything in food at first place is again because I feel food is such a fundamental aspect of our life. And it's not just physical in sense, it carries a lot of stories, emotions, nostalgia. So when I think about food, of course, I was born and brought up in India. It has a lot of history, it has a lot of love, it has a lot of nostalgia. So when I went to the show, so my first instinct, I can cook all kind of cuisine, to be honest. Like it's not just Indian.
I'm sure.
But there I wanted to showcase something which comes naturally to me, which makes me happy, and which is something very honest to my heart. So that's why I started going full-fledged absolute Indian in the beginning. And in the middle of competition, in fact, I did try to do some fusion and try to incorporate a lot of Western techniques, ingredients in my cooking. So to that, in fact, both John and Greg really supported me. They said like, there's no reason like why you need to diverse now into other cuisines. They asked me quite bluntly off camera, why you are doing that? I said, because I want to showcase again that I can do everything other than just Indian. They said, you don't have to, because we are not judging that you are master of all cuisine or something like that. We just wanted to see your original flair, your passion for food. So if you feel passionate, you feel love about Indian cuisine, stick to that. So that gave me a lot of courage and again, conviction to my own cuisine to just take it forward that at that level. Because if you think about in the world, they are like, I don't know, like we can't even count how many cuisines are there. So no one single person can know all of them. So that kind of gave me conviction and I just took it forward, something much more than just a physical aspect of a cuisine.
And I guess kind of reclaim, Indian cuisine as something of craft, that can be fine dining, that can be absolutely recognized alongside some of the more traditional ideas or perceptions we might have of MasterChef. I guess it's tainted a little bit. Everybody in the UK has got 3 or 4 local curry houses, and that's often their only experience of Indian cuisine. So really important that chefs like you are sort of challenging that quite limited perception, perhaps.
A lot of people, like especially in the Indian community, Indian hospitality community here in UK, people generally crib about it. Oh, Indian food is not about curries, this and that. So I think it goes other way around because it's kind of our responsibility to, again, spread the awareness what Indian cuisine is. So whatever is available, people will attract towards that. So it is not British culture fault that Indian cuisine is perceived as curries only. Yeah, as an Indian, I know, it is curry is one aspect and it's a very important aspect. It's a very delicious aspect, but it's just one aspect. There are lots more. So I feel through these, especially MasterChef, through these shows, people get a chance to talk about, to cook their cuisine in a very broad manner, which is, I think, always good.
Talk me through your headline story up to that point. When did you start thinking of cooking as not just something you enjoy doing, but something that actually is a professional outlet, is something through which you wanted to build a career?
It almost pretty much started in somewhere in 2015 to 2017. I was born and brought up in India. Then I done education, got a job, good qualification. Then got a job in London. Then I moved to London with my wife in 2010. So after that, I was just on a typical life path like any other person who want to make a living, raise a family and, all those kind of things, buying a house, car. So on paper, I was doing great. All my boxes were checked. And then that thought started coming into my mind. What next? What's more? Am I going to live this life again and again for the rest of my life? There's something is missing. And of course, even as a child, I was so passionate about food. I always wanted to do something in food. But again, because of the social construct, you end up picking up very constructed, very, very proven social construct. That's what I've done by choosing finance as my career. So now that inner urge to do something in food, my inner chef was just kind of getting restless. So that ticking up all the boxes when I had my second child gave me that courage. Yeah, I can't do this for rest of my life. Now I need to do something which really makes me happy, which is something like very real, very fundamental, and nothing can be fundamental than food. So one thing led to another, and then again, you get fixated and feel secure, stuck into your own comfort zone. So it was very hard, to even think about it. Yeah, you can leave a job and just start it from scratch. And that too in hospitality, which is a very tough industry in itself. Then COVID happened in 2020, and it's not a cliche, everything happens for a good reason. So that gave me very deeper insight that what I consider to be secure and permanent, there's nothing like that, right? Somebody sneezes on me and I can be literally gone within 2 weeks of time. So what kind of security I'm talking about? So that inner realization gave me courage that yes, I want to do something to follow my passion, which is cooking. So I need to do something about it. The first step, I will leave my job and I do something. I didn't have any plan, didn't have any roadmap for me, but that initial courage was required to take the very first step, and then rest become history. Once you make that intention, strong intention, and you give your best, then everything starts supporting you. Initially, I being very naive, wanted to open a restaurant, then didn't work, and I'm glad that it didn't work with the current economic conditions. But then I applied in MasterChef. But other than just the TV and the fame aspect, but I think more than that, it gave me real inner conviction, inner confirmation that yes, I am on the right path. I can definitely take it forward as a full-time career rather than just a hobby.
Well, I mean, that's quite some courageous leap from comfortable job in finance to going, actually, no, my purpose is in food, to then being on, the biggest food program. From your perspective, how hard is it to establish a restaurant, or maybe flip the question, the rare ones that are working at the moment, certainly new ones, what needs to be in place for something like that to thrive, do you think?
Again, coming from finance background, and I was quite commercially active from the business aspect in my corporate life. So I had a fair bit of understanding how any business, not only just restaurant would run, but as far as restaurants are concerned. So I always feel the food aspect is quite important, is the core, but it is just 20%. So rest is more about, like any other business, is just managing the operations, managing the process. And when we talk about restaurant now in the current economy and other scenarios, it is becoming hard because the old traditional model, financial model of restaurant is evolving. I'm sure it'll take a new shape, but now people's spending habits are changing. The cost of staff, cost of labor, and energy prices have gone up, which is the key ingredient in any restaurant, right? Key input. There's no fixed formula. There's no right or wrong. Yeah, you need to take all the right basics like what you do in any other business. But specifically for restaurant, it's important that you create a product which is desirable, which is food in this case. More importantly, in restaurant, service has to be top notch, irrespective of the level of restaurant you are operating at. And that's where people sometimes get it wrong. They say, okay, my food is amazing, but if you don't invest that time and money for your front of the house staff, so product is of no use, because then as a customer, probably I'll get frustrated how somebody is serving me. Everything really matters, and just keep it a bit small. I think that has the more probability to do well. But my personal feel as a chef is it would evolve over some time, like we have seen what fundamental change has gone through the retail industry. All the high street shops, even big clothing and lifestyle stores, they are closing down because people have moved into online buying or some other models. So for food, I don't know like what the new model is going to look like, but one thing is for sure, the current model will massively change.
This is an Always Possible podcast, but making podcasts is really only one way in which we help people drive forward economic development and social innovation. We're Sussex born and bred, but work across the UK and sometimes further to design and deliver big projects. Projects that promote social mobility, digital transformation and equality of opportunity in business, culture and education. Projects that tell the story of growth and creative thinking in cities, sectors and communities. Projects that enable emerging leaders as well as big brands to define, measure and communicate their impact. We work with teams who know that their mission is a bit braver and a bit more ambitious than others. If that sounds like you, then we need to meet. Come say hello at alwayspossible.co.uk. That's alwayspossible.co.uk.
This city.
This is a quick note to say that the Brighton Paradox will be back. Season 2 will be a shorter, tighter series looking at the energy, impatience and opportunity happening in post-pandemic Brighton and Hove. We're examining the landscape across the city in 2024, what's changing, what's building in economics, culture, community and technology. Why are people telling me that they are in fight or flight mode? What is the significance of a council with an overall majority? How is artificial intelligence maybe changing the way people solve problems in the city? And of course, how has a podcast changed the lives of Brighton's children? And it's not this one. All new interviewees and all new explorations of the city. But right now we're still gluing the jigsaw together, so you'll have to wait a little bit longer. But we are delighted to announce that we're being supported again by Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club, who return as brilliant headline sponsors and partners. And the University of Brighton's Help to Grow management programme also returns as a really valuable project partner. And in addition, we have 2 new supporters, the exceptional folk at EQ Investors and the legends at Midnight Communications, and we couldn't do this without all of these visionary people. Brilliant. Thank you. Take care. Speak soon. So that brings me to your mission now, Anurag. What's your focus now? Well, how are you using your experiences to date to build new things?
So, as a humanity, there's the aspect of tradition, stories, culture. And I feel food plays that medium to pass on that story. So that is the main reason why I started calling myself Anurag Food Story, because I see food as that medium to carry on that knowledge from one generation to another. Now, what I want to do with that, with this knowledge and current experience and exposure I got through MasterChef, of course, I want to build a business around it. Restaurant, for the time being, I'm putting on hold, but I'm simultaneously working on a project to open a food production, more like commercial unit, where I cater to businesses for their food needs.
And what are you learning about the change that's happening? It's a really exciting time to be advising people, to be making food, but also, quite a scary time unless you're made of tough stuff. I'm sure you're learning new things all the time and then applying that. And I guess with perhaps a kind of financier's analytical brain as well.
Yeah, there are 2-3 key aspects which I am personally considering in setting up my own business. One is overall society is growing. There's a lot of influx of social media, how people get influenced. And there's a kind of so I would say first aspect is the vibe of the food. For me right now, the casual vibe is working quite a lot. There are 3 kind of vibe if I want to classify for food. One is very mass scale, like very fast food kind of vibe, which is very, very easily accessible, very reasonably priced. And then there is a high end, which is like more like experiential dining. So that is a third vibe. The middle vibe is, I would call it as casual vibe. Food is good quality, probably not fine dining as such, but good quality. And it kind of becomes part of your day-to-day life. So that is the food vibe I am going for. So for any businesses, so they need to make sure that they identify what food vibe they want to cater to. Because like sometime I go to restaurant, they try to cater to all three vibes, and that results in confusion because they can't do any of them well. Second aspect, again, talking from my own experience, is to focus on the process. Especially in hospitality, one of the biggest reason of failure of a lot of restaurants, that people who are very passionate about food, they open businesses, they start businesses. They have a huge command on the food, the cuisine, or the ingredient, what kind of produce they are using, but they forget that food is one of the product in the business. So they need to focus on the commercial aspect of business. And more importantly, they should focus on the process rather than the component itself. So always think about, what is my process? Can it be scalable? Is it too much dependent on a particular thing like staffing or specific supplies, etc.? Think of your business as a process, so you will be able to objectively answer all those things as well. Last but not the least aspect, which I'm also personally considering, and I think everybody is now quite aware of that, is more like environmental compatibility. So we keep hearing all these buzzwords, you need to reduce your carbon footprint, try to use local ingredients and employ local staff. And I feel they are much more than just the buzzwords, because as a citizen of a country, as a citizen of a local community, we have a huge social responsibility, especially if you are starting a new business, to consider all these aspects. And in restaurant industry, in hospitality especially, what exactly you're going to cook. So the deciding menu is the most flexible thing you have. So can you make your menu which is pretty much fulfilled by your locally sourced ingredients? Can you hire the staff locally as well?
Mm-hmm.
So those three things, like food vibe, focus on the process, and live with environment.
You've now become quite synonymous with Essex, where you live. You've got quite a big profile in that county, and it's a county I love very much and do a lot of work in. It's got a long coastline, and it's famous for its, Mersey oysters and crabs and seafood from the North Sea. It's got a very big rural economy. Most of Essex is farmland. Proximity to London, East London in particular, where there's been lots of food innovation, but also cities like Colchester, Southend, Chelmsford, that will have got their own sort of urban food ecosystems. How do you feel about the opportunities in Essex for a real kind of sustainable food story?
I think it's just immense. And I think I'll go back to your question, talking about my MasterChef journey, where you asked, like, I pretty much stuck to Indian cuisine. Why not to go to other cuisines? That pretty much applies to anywhere. Why you need to look out? Why you need to look out? Until you explore something, you'll never find it, right? Essex is such a big county, and surrounded by a beautiful coastal line and proximity to East London. So that is immense already. So I would definitely like to use all of that. There are a lot of local farms here, poultry farms, etc., so which can supply me a lot of fresh fruits and vegetable growers are there. I think that we always go to these in summer strawberry picking farms. So there you see like what beautiful produce there, which is just on my doorstep. And again, that's where my financial experience also talks about, because that means I'm minimizing my cost also. It's not no brainer. I think as a society over last 50, 100 years, when we got so-called modernized with a modern way of transportation, I think everybody was quite dependent on their locally sourced produce, right? It was never a question. That was the only option. And now we are just going back to what we were before. It promotes the local economy, and even biologically, we don't realize. As an Indian, when I moved to this country, I do feel that difference, because like your DNA is pretty much compatible to a particular environment and what food it produces. When you expose yourself to something like very diverse, you like it probably from a taste perspective, but it's not biologically good for you in long run.
What are you excited about? What are you optimistic about? What are you looking forward to?
Every industry, every profession has a rat race, right? So I'm very conscious, whatever I do, I don't create another rat race for me.
And as being on something like MasterChef, what sort of doors does that open? Do you find it easier now to develop partnerships with restaurants? Do you find it easier to speak to the media if you've got something to say, or does that all disappear quite quickly when they're on to the next series and so on? I mean, how fickle is the industry? Is that side of the industry?
Yeah, it is like, I think, half fiction, half reality, let me put it this way. Yeah, so nothing comes to you on a platter that, yeah, now you have come on MasterChef, reached your top three. Now here is the thing, like, would you like to collaborate with us? I still need to make calls. I need to still, reach out to people, send a lot of emails. So the only difference now it makes, probably people will just give a chance, like, just they would hear you once, and now it's up to you, like, whether you can make your mark or not, or get that job, or get that new opportunity. But things won't get easy as such. But now, first, I feel more confident about my offering, just because of the fact that I was able to prove myself on MasterChef. Plus, if I speak to somebody, if I introduce myself well, give reference to MasterChef, yeah, they probably give me that initial 2 minutes. Then I have to take it forward from there. Even I stick to very traditional kind of food, but I am very open to using different new techniques. For example, I use a lot of microwave, not just for heating, but for cooking as well, and other methods which are quick, energy efficient, and retains more flavor and texture. So in cooking, I'm sure, like, there's lots going on. But again, one thing I'll be little concerned about, sometimes we give a lot of priority to all these modern techniques and forget that what was the point of food itself, you know? So
Yeah.
it's always a balancing act. You don't want to forgo the nostalgia and the real stories behind food. There's like a lot of fuss going about of air fryer, this and that. Yeah, it is a nice piece of equipment, but as a normal human being, I don't get it. Like, if all kind of food is good for you, including fat, carbs, protein, it's all about how you balance it. So just saying that, yeah, you want to use a particular piece of equipment because you can get rid of a particular element from your diet altogether. 5 years down the line, I'm sure we'll be like taking supplements for fat.
Food always comes back to being the most fundamental of sciences, isn't it? The earliest science that as human beings we got our heads around. Okay, if you apply heat to something, this happens. If you mix, as you say, carbs, fat, salt, sugar, these things happen. And for me, I think that's still what's quite exciting when I look at how, the industry. So, I mean, I'm down in Sussex. The wine industry here is booming, and whether you drink or not, the appreciation for the science of winemaking, which has always been something sort of heralded by the old world Europeans or the new world in the southern hemisphere, it's never really been something taken seriously in England. But in Sussex and now Essex, I'm hearing the really exciting winemakers are setting up in Essex and using the land differently, thinking about the soil, the terroir, the climate, and essentially all you're doing is fermenting some grapes and sticking them in a bottle. But the science behind it, to be able to get some really experimental and exciting new drinks, is surely more what's going to drive.
Definitely, as you say, like, even that was MasterChef when I was first got even exposed to induction way of cooking things. And of course, I was quite nervous about it because I never used it before going on the show, and don't know how it's going to perform. But it's an amazing way because it is very energy efficient, it's very quick, it's very powerful as well. So all those things, I'm sure, like, to your point, always remember that use science to your advantage. Don't just become a slave to it. So that's what people need to remember.
Absolute pleasure to speak to you, Anurag. Thank you for your time and thank you for being on the Possibility Club, and good luck with your future food story.
Thank you so much. Take care. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Possibility Club, Practical Bravery. If you enjoyed this episode, do like, share, review, tell everybody about it. Look in the show notes for all the details of today's guest, stuff we talked about, stuff that's of interest, new things to read, new things to listen to. And if you are running a business or a charity and you are trying to accelerate or improve the impact that you have in the world, if you want to be famous for what you do and what you change rather than just what you sell, then talk to us. alwayspossible.co.uk. We want to hear from you, we want to talk to you, we want to amplify and elevate your ideas, and who knows, we might be able to help you feel more confident and clear about what's next. alwayspossible.co.uk. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with a new special guest and a new insight on practical bravery in action.
The Possibility Club is an Always Possible podcast. The interviewer was Richard Freeman for Always Possible, and the producer and editor was me, Chris Thorpe Tracy, for Lo-Fi Arts. Have a good week.
alwayspossible.co.uk.
Lo-Fi Arts.